Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. And this weekend in World of Warships I tried something a little different. I started grinding down the Japanese battleship line, and a couple of things became immediately apparent. Battleship accuracy really sucks, and I really need to give up playing World of Warships on the weekend. There was a mission going in World of Warships this weekend. All you had to do was win 2 battles. It took 8 games for me to get this mission complete. And so what you're going to see today is a compilation of my weekend warrior experience in the Tier 6 Japanese battleship, the Fuso, this weekend in World of Warships. I unlocked the Fuso here from the Congo on Saturday morning and immediately started playing with it, but I wasn't quite stupid enough to play the Fuso without spending a large amount of free experience on it. Why is that, Jingles? Well, it's entirely possible that fresh out of the box the Fuso is the worst ship in World of Warships. It absolutely sucks. Its main battery 14-inch guns only have a range of 13.2 kilometers. Yes, that's right, 13.2. It gets outgunned by cruisers. It only has a speed of 21.6 knots and it takes over 17 seconds for it to turn the rudder. Also, anti-aircraft defense, absolutely laughable. A lot of people, when looking at upgrading their Fuso, are tempted to go for that propulsion upgrade first, and that's not a bad idea because it does boost the speed up to just over 24 knots and provides a lot of additional horsepower to the engine. But I would definitely recommend going for the first hull upgrade as a priority before anything else, because that boosts the range of the main battery guns up to 19.8 kilometers, and that's entirely acceptable. It also provides you with a lot of anti-aircraft guns, drops that rudder shift time down to 14.9 seconds, and improves the armour layout. Now, I did not quite have enough free experience to fully upgrade the Fuso on my first run out with the ship, so I didn't have enough free experience to unlock the upgraded fire control system, which would have given me 21.8 kilometer range on my main battery guns, but I figure 19.8 is good enough. This Pensacola's already in range. Now, unfortunately, when the Fuso was built, she was the biggest warship in the world, and that's reflected in her surface detection range. Before she fires a gun, she'll be spotted on the surface from a range of 18.3 kilometers. And when she unloads all 12 of these 14-inch guns, that extends to a range of 29.1 kilometers. Basically, when the Fuso fires the guns, you can see her from the other side of the map. There's no hiding this ship, there's nothing subtle about it. You can get spectacular results when you unload a full broadside of these 14-inch guns into an enemy, providing they hit and penetrate, of course, and that is by no means guaranteed, because despite the fact that the Fuso actually has pretty respectable accuracy for a Tier 6 battleship, it's for a Tier 6 battleship, and it still sucks. Now, there, my first game in the Fuso, I misjudged just how sluggish this rudder shift is, and how long it takes to centre the rudder and get the ship angled again after you've unloaded all the guns, and I took some nasty damage from the enemy Fuso over there. You'll note, by the way, that my first game in the Fuso threw me in at the deep end. This is a Tier 8 battle. The enemy team have a North Carolina, a Bismarck, and an Amagi. And right now, those guys don't really have anything other than me to fire at, so I want to get myself tucked in behind that island up ahead, get the ship angled, and see what I can do from a position of relative safety, because I really don't want to get shot at by the 15-inch guns of that Bismarck. Or for that matter, his little friend over there in the Gneisenau, now, he could have the 15-inch guns as well. And yep, I have definitely attracted their attention, and they are definitely swinging around to be able to get all of their guns pointing at me, so that broadside I fired there is probably going to be the last one that I get to do before making it into the cover afforded by this island here. I've got the Pensacola that I can shoot at, however, although only with my 2 forward turrets. Enemy Fuso is burning heavily and has been burning for quite a while, although he appears to be only burning in one location, so the Fuso's providing a better target. Oops, sorry Mr. Pensacola, didn't see you there. And I actually took some shots that were aimed at the Pensacola. Oh well, shit happens. Right. The angle that I'm presenting to these guys is not ideal. I've got the Pensacola and the Fuso already shooting at me. I am spotted. None of these guys are presenting particularly viable targets, although I'm going to take a punt at the Graf Spee. And what I need to do now is reverse and turn to improve my angle and increase my armour protection. And that's when this hipper comes out of nowhere and actually takes a hit for me. But as I'm reversing and attempting to turn, suddenly the ship stops moving. What the hell? Oh my god, it's the Pensacola. At the worst possible time, and it costs me about 10,000 health. With the Pensacola finally out of the way, I am able to continue reversing and angling the ship, which is putting me out of the direct line of fire of the majority of those big nasty battleships over there, or it will soon. And in the meantime, I'm trying to lob some shots over that island there and hit the Graf Spee. I do hit him twice, but they're both over penetrations. Obviously went through his superstructure. Destroyer nips in front of us there. Would have been nice if he could have laid a smoke screen, but no. The Pensacola's taken some serious hits. I'm waiting and holding my fire with the rear turrets on the Graf Spee. I want to see exactly where his waterline is and attempt to get a citadel. He's firing at me, or possibly the Pensacola. Shots out. No, he's aiming for the Pensacola. No, he's aiming for me rather than trying to kill the Pensacola. But Jingles, maybe he couldn't see the Pensacola. Are you kidding? The Pensacola's got a surface detection range that makes battleships embarrassed. Oh, hello? Cleveland shooting at me. Okay, continue turning, improving the angle. Shots out at the Cleveland. Are you kidding me? One hit. And these are accurate for a tier 6 battleship guns. I mean, and it's not like I'm shooting at targets 21.4 kilometers away either. So I'm really not feeling the love with the heaviest broadside of any tier 6 battleship in the game yet. In fact, things are going to get a lot worse before they start getting better. Right now I'm in serious trouble. Well, actually the whole team's in serious trouble. We only managed to sink one destroyer and we're down 4 ships, and I've got the pain train heading down the channel between these 2 islands in my direction. Now the Bismarck did have his guns pointed right at me, but I'm presenting a very, very bad angle for him to shoot at, so instead he's turned his guns over to his port side. The Leningrad up ahead has managed to get some torpedoes away. One of them hits the Bismarck, one of them's going to hit the Gneisenau as well. The angle that I'm presenting towards these guys is discouraging them from firing at me. Instead, they've got targets over to their port side, particularly a cruiser who was presenting his broadside to them, and I suspect that's who they're shooting at, but I am now in range of the Bismarck's secondaries. The problem here is that I cannot afford to turn away from these guys. If I turn the side of my ship on, all of those guys are going to unload on me, and I will be a dead Fuso. At the same time, however, if I continue on this course, I'm also going to be a dead Fuso. So I'm slowing down to delay the inevitable, trying to get some shots in at this Pensacola. Now the range is good, and he's just rammed the Graf Spee over there, which has stopped him dead in the water, so I unload with my 2 front turrets. Of course, everything misses. I'm now taking hits purely from the secondaries of the Bismarck and the Gneisenau. They've now split. You can see the Gneisenau, he's looking at me, and then he turns his gun turrets away. Again, it's because of the angle that I'm showing him. He's got much, much better chance of actually scoring substantial damage on targets to his front. So I couldn't ask this Gneisenau for a better target. I'm taking fire from the secondaries of both the Bismarck and the Gneisenau, and I'm paying attention to the map and making sure that I'm presenting a very uninviting target to the Bismarck's main battery guns. But now I can get all 12 of my 14-inch guns firing at this Gneisenau. And watch how they fail. Look at the dispersion. Over-penetration after over-penetration. He's in range of my secondaries now, and the Fuso secondaries are pretty bad. They only have a 4-kilometer range. But look at the range and watch where these shots go. Aiming right at the waterline, and I'm over-penetrating his superstructure. You have got to be kidding me. I'm even seeing shots from the same turret landing hundreds of meters apart. Well, the Bismarck got himself sunk, but not before the fires from his secondary batteries managed to put me down. So that was my first game in the Fuso. Almost completely upgraded, I just don't have the fire control, which gives me a main battery firing range of 19.8 kilometers, which is respectable. And for a ship that has the heaviest broadside of any of the tier 6 battleships, I am definitely, so far, not really feeling the love for the Fuso. That match as a whole was also a little bit of a disaster for the team. Tier 8 match, I'm in a tier 6 battleship. My first tryout in this tier 6 battleship, I only did 50,000 damage, and I'm 4th on my team for experience earned. Welcome to the weekend in World of Warships. Still undeterred, I decided to have another go. And almost immediately wished I hadn't bothered. Once again, I only got to do about 50,000 damage in this game, and the game ended because we got capped. And yet, still with only 50,000 damage done, in this time a tier 7 game, I managed to finish second on the team in experience earned. Beginning to feel a little discouraged at this point, I nevertheless soldiered on. And in the next game, I got one hell of a surprise at the hands of the enemy aircraft carrier. And no, it's not what you're thinking. I didn't get caught in a torpedo cross-drop, although with its relatively poor anti-aircraft armament and its very, very sluggish rudder, the Fuso is a prime target for a double airdrop torpedo strike. That's not what happened. But don't worry, you'll know it when you see it. Now, this game actually started off quite well. Once again, it's a tier 7 battle. But there's only one tier 7 battleship that I have to worry about, the enemy Scharnhorst. They only have 2 destroyers, but they do have a tier 7 aircraft carrier, the USS Saipan. However, the game has started off reasonably well. I've scored multiple hits on that Haguro over there, and one of them was a Citadel, so I'm already up to 15,300 damage and the game has barely started. Next up, we have an enemy Fuso to shoot at. Now, despite the fact that the cruiser up ahead has laid a smokescreen, I am spotted by enemy aircraft so he can see me. And I've got a much, much better target to shoot at than he does. Still, at this kind of range, you have to expect most of your shots to miss. Hell, as you saw in the previous example, even at point blank range, you have to expect most of your shots to go nowhere near where you aimed. Nevertheless, I have hit him. Unfortunately, I should have been paying a little bit more attention to the map. I overcompensate with the rudder, and I take 2 torpedoes on the nose from the enemy Farragut as he disappears inside his smokescreen. That's actually a pretty good result for the Farragut. I mean, he fired a full spread of torpedoes there, and I was basically nose on towards him, so hitting with 2 of his torpedoes is probably the best result he could expect. Attempting to finish off the job I started with the first Citadel on the enemy ARP Haguro over there. We've just lost our Farragut, or we're about to. There he goes. I've managed to hit and sink with another Citadel, ironically enough. It's like scoring an ammunition rack detonation on a tank in World of Tanks when he only has 50 health left. Still, kill's a kill. 20,000 damage done. We've just lost our Farragut. He managed to get his torpedoes away, but I'm pretty sure he didn't hit anything. I'm now starting to take fire from the flank. Those guys have got the broadside of the ship to shoot at, so what I want to do here is nose in behind this island to reduce the amount of fire that I'm taking from my starboard side, but I don't want to go out in front of the island because there's a Farragut and a Fiji on the other side, and they have torpedoes. I could have, well, there's no probably about it, I could definitely have done a better job of this. The Farragut and our team that just died there has laid a smokescreen, but I'm still spotted by this Fuso, despite the fact that the smokescreen would, if the Fuso wasn't there, be providing perfect concealment for me. Which means all of those, there it comes, I'm still taking fire from the starboard side, so that Fuso needs to go down. So what I'm doing now is reversing and turning to port at the same time. That's going to allow me to get all of my guns firing once they swing around at that Fuso, and it's also going to increase the angle that I'm presenting towards those ships on my starboard side. The Farragut I can't see him, but he can clearly see me, and he's able to loft those 127mm high explosive shells clean over the headland between us. But screw this, I'm speeding up, the Fuso is down, there's the Farragut. Now, why would he be sitting there stationary in the water broadside onto me? He's fired his torpedoes. So I'm heading away from him, and the angle that I'm showing towards the guys that were firing at me from the starboard side now is making me just about bulletproof. Shots out at the Farragut, hopefully that's going to force him to run off, and suddenly, after scoring some hits on the Farragut, a wild Fiji appears. The Fiji is inside my secondary gun battery range, which is only 4 kilometers. There's the Farragut's torpedoes. I knew they were coming, there was no way they were going to hit. The Fiji is obviously angling for a torpedo launch. But my guns are just about reloaded. He starts turning in slightly, and then no? Okay, well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to sink you. I'm pretty sure he got all of his torpedoes away, however, so I'm going to continue turning. Yep, there they are. Okay, now, again, very sluggish rudder shift on this thing, so I need to be careful not to overcompensate, and I've avoided his torpedoes. And I start recovering some health, and I was just about to begin celebrating when, holy shit, what the hell was that? enemy Saipan hit me with a single squadron of dive bombers and took 20,000 health off. And set 3 fires. And of course, my damage control ability is on cooldown. When have dive bombers been able to do that to battleships? Did I miss a meeting or something? That's the surprise I was talking about. I had no idea, because it's been so long since I played a battleship and I've pretty much never played an aircraft carrier. When did they give aircraft carriers armour-piercing bombs? When did that happen? I must have missed the memo. Of course, it doesn't help that the deck armour on the Fuso is also pretty bad, which does make it vulnerable to plunging fire from other battleships. But I had absolutely no idea that a battleship could take that much damage from a dive bomber strike, just one squadron, from a Tier 7 aircraft carrier. And I found out the hard way that, yes, they very definitely can do that. Nevertheless, this was actually my first win of the day, despite only managing to do 40,000 damage, and had been having a pretty good game up to that point, and was fairly confident that I could have easily doubled that damage number, but the Saipan on the enemy team had other plans for me. The next 3 games I played, unfortunately, were embarrassingly bad defeats, not so much for me, but for the teams. When you're in a Tier 6 battleship and 3 consecutive Tier 8 battles and you manage to finish in the top 3 of your team, you've probably done reasonably well. It doesn't say an awful lot about the quality of the rest of your team on the weekend, however. But the 8th game that I played was this one. I never did manage to get into a game where I was top tier. In every game that I played, it was either Tier 7 or Tier 8, and this is a Tier 7 battle, although as Tier 7 matchmaking goes for a Tier 6 battleship, this one isn't actually too bad. There's no aircraft carrier, the enemy team only have 2 destroyers, and one of their 3 Tier 7 battleships is the Scharnhorst, and that only has 280mm guns. The Scharnhorst's really more of a cruiser killer, although it can be dangerous to battleships, if it's well played and you're dumb enough to give the flat side of your ship for him to shoot at. One thing that I found particularly ironic about the Fuso is that for the Tier 6 battleship with the longest ranged guns in the game, the only consumable option that it has in that 3rd slot is a spotter aircraft to extend the range of the main battery guns by 20%. If there's a Tier 6 battleship in the game that is desperately crying out for a catapult fighter more than the Fuso, I don't know what it is. But it's spotter aircraft or nothing. And with the spotter aircraft airborne, I am at least able to take shots at this enemy. Oh, he's gone. Crap, he's firing at me. I didn't even need the spotter aircraft to fire at the Scharnhorst. 21.2 kilometers, he was inside my firing range, but that means I am also inside his firing range, and that could have been a lot worse. And I'm getting shot at by the Bajoni as well. And I don't like this very much. I'm sitting broadside onto these guys. So I have to turn away. And I really don't want to be that battleship. You know, that battleship. The guy that hangs around at the back of the map, firing his guns at targets 20 kilometers away. Hitting maybe once out of every 12 shots he fires, and then complaining that everybody on his team is dying and he's the last one alive. I don't want to be that guy, but at the same time I don't want to sail straight into the teeth of all of those enemy guns. So we'll put some shots out at the Bajoni. And I'm pretty sure they're all going to miss. I tried to lead the shots, assuming that he was going to turn to port to avoid running into the island, but nah, nothing. Here comes the Nice now. Oh, hang on. Shot, and wouldn't you know it, just as I'm about to take the shot at the Scharnhorst, the spotter aircraft returns to the ship, and now I'm out of range. Great. Oh well. Yeah. I've got nothing else. Oh, hang on. What is that? I don't really want to be wasting shots on a T-22 destroyer at this kind of range, but the New Mexico, ooh, that's a different matter entirely. Now he's right at the extreme limit of my range, but he's sitting broadside on and he's basically stationary. So, as good a target as I'm going to get, I unload all 12 of my 14-inch guns in his direction, start angling the ship in case he's thinking of firing back, well, in case anybody else is thinking of firing back. The New Mexico doesn't have the range to hit me from there. And of course, not one of the shots hits him. And that theme is going to continue for the next couple of minutes, where I unload everything I've got at multiple enemy cruisers, and I don't hit jack. Now, admittedly, the range that I'm engaging these targets at is on the extreme side, but I don't really have too many options at the moment. The Fuso is very vulnerable to fires, and that's a lot of enemy cruisers and battleships, and well, you saw in the first game what happened. when I did, in almost exactly this situation, close to shorter range with more or less the same number and type of enemy ships facing me. I don't want to be turning to port and heading down directly towards those guys. I want to be heading around that island just over there in front of me and heading down that channel to get around the flank. So for the moment, while I do not want to be that guy in the battleship who hangs around at the back of the map missing targets with every shot that he fires because he's firing at extreme range. Now, I'm sure we've all seen those YouTube videos. In fact, I'm pretty sure I may have done a couple of them myself, where somebody in a battleship unloads with their main battery guns at the very first target that they spot that's in range with the first salvo that they fire in a game, and all of their shots hit. They score multiple detonations, citadel penetrations, you name it, and completely obliterate a top-tier enemy battleship with the first shots that they fire in the game. And it's all very spectacular, but the reason it's so spectacular is because it happens so bloody rarely. Normally, well, it's not normally quite as bad as this. I've lost track of the number of shots I've fired at the enemy, and I have scored exactly one hit on an enemy cruiser so far, and it was an over-penetration for 1020 damage. Jingles, I thought you said this was a good game in the Fuso. Oh, this is a good game in the Fuso. Just not yet. I'm almost where I want to be. I just have to get there. But I do need to get a move on, because while I'm not a top-tier battleship, I still have very, very heavy firepower. We're more than 5 minutes into this game, and I've only done 1020 damage. We've just lost another ship. We've knocked out one enemy cruiser, we've just lost one of our own, and we've been down a destroyer for some time now. Our Fiji up ahead has been spotted, and he's coming under fire. So I need to help that guy out, and as soon as I clear this channel, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I've cleared the island. I am able to fire at this New Mexico. He's turning. He's given me the side of the ship. I'm able to get all 12 of the guns firing, and it does look surprisingly good for a change. That's what I'm talking about. 12, nearly 13,000 damage. You're never going to citadel a New Mexico with 14-inch guns, but you are going to penetrate. He's returning fire. He saw me at the last moment, but yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I'll trade those kind of damage numbers with the New Mexico all day. Am I going to get another shot at him? But no, he's turning away again. Ah, enemy destroyer. Okay, the Fiji's shooting at him. He is dropping smoke. Need that destroyer down, really. So I've unloaded at him. He's outside of secondary gun battery range. And now he's... Wait, no. Fiji got him. Good stuff. Right, that's now opened up the options. I'm now on the flank of all these guys, and there's only really the New Mexico's in a position to shoot at me, and I'm angling towards the New Mexico, which is allowing me to get the full broadside of all these guys, like that enemy Fuso. He seems to be going at full speed, so we'll give him a good amount of lead and see what we can do. Come on, baby. Daddy needs a new pair of shoes. You've got to be kidding me. 12 shots fired, one hit, and it bounced off his belt armour. Bloody typical. Right. Well, it takes 30 seconds for these guns to reload. You have a rate of fire of 2 shots per minute. And the York over there just got stopped dead in the water by the Graf Spee cutting across his bows. So, shots out at the York. It's not extreme range, but it's not really short range either. And, well, as you can see, the shots land in front, the shots land behind. Nice tight grouping, not one of them hit him. His upper deck crew's probably got a big fright and a face full of water, but no damage done to the ship. Jingles, I thought you said this was a good game in the Fuso. It is, it is. You just have to be a little more patient. Now, Graf Spee, he's sitting there dead. In fact, he's even reversing, so I scatter the shots in his direction. And one hit. This York, however, just made a serious error of judgment. He should have turned to starboard and sailed around the other side of that island, where he would have been safe from the battering that he's about to take, but he didn't, so he isn't, and he's dead. Now, got a whole bunch of enemy battleships about to come into line of fire, including our little friend in the enemy Fuso. But the sun must be shining out of that guy's arse, because once again, 12 shots fired, one hit, and it bounces off his belt armour. The same cannot be said for our Königsberg-class cruiser just up ahead, sailing broadside on to at least 3 enemy battleships, and you know how battleships like to delete cruisers. Now with the Königsberg dead, they're going to be looking at selecting a new target, and I really don't want it to be me, so I'm turning towards them to make myself a bad target. Don't want to turn too much though as I fire at the Scharnhorst, because that's going to make me an easy hit for the New Mexico over there, and I did in fact take a very minor hit from the New Mexico as the Fuso up ahead, as predicted, takes the majority of fire from the enemy team as he peels away, and I finally score a citadel on the enemy Scharnhorst. Now he didn't like that very much and he's starting to turn away. Next up, battleships do love deleting cruisers, especially ones that are very easy to citadel, like the Pensacola. It's fast though, so I do have to give a lot of lead. Friendly Fuso up ahead has, well, he's not up ahead anymore, he's managed to make good his escape, so they're all now starting to shoot at me. Well, not all of them. The Pensacola can't shoot at anybody because he just got deleted. Still, it's time for me to think about making good my escape. Now, I need to be careful here. I have to time this turn for after these guys have unloaded their guns at me. There's shots. The Fuso's just turned, so all he can point at me are his rear turrets. The Scharnhorst is in the turn. The Kirishima, however, is shooting at me. So now I'm committing to the turn, unloading a final salvo at the Kirishima, and then continue to turn and get away from all these enemy battleships. Minor damage sustained. Hey! Citadels for everybody! That's what we like to see. Right, now the Colorado and the Bidioni are on the other side of the island over there, so they can't shoot at me. This Graf Spey's being a little bit cheeky though, isn't he? Now, I know his torpedoes have an 8-kilometre range, so I don't have to worry about those, and at this kind of angle I don't really have to worry about his 280mm guns, however. But at that kind of angle he has to worry about my 14-inch guns, even if I can only fire 4 of them at him, because if you sail broadside onto a battleship at that kind of range, that's a paddling. There you go, you see. You didn't trust your Uncle Jingles, did you? I said this was going to be a decent game in the Fuso, but no, you're like, well, Jingles, nothing's happened for the first 10 minutes of the game. Well, yeah, okay, I'll give you that much, but it's all coming good now. Scharnhorst, again, extreme range. Again, I can't fire all of my guns at him, but we'll take a shot, because at the moment I don't really have anything better to shoot at. Friendly Fuso has managed to make it into the smoke screen, laid by the kamikaze up there. He's quite safe. He's going to be able to start recovering some health. And I'm chasing down that New Mexico, while still taking some pot shots at ships like the Kirishima here. See if I can finish off the job. Oh, damn it, he's gone. And I've been spotted by aircraft. Okay. But still, don't really have too much to worry about at the moment, because the only thing that can shoot at me is the New Mexico over there. Well, actually now nothing can shoot at me, because I'm no longer spotted. Oh wait, I am spotted. Okay, never mind. So I can expect some incoming fire from the New Mexico. And that New Mexico has not had a particularly amusing game. He's basically spent the entire game running away from, well, me. The kamikaze who's been pursuing him may have been a contributory factor as well, but I like to think that he was running away from me. Once again, we're in pretty much the same situation that we were in earlier, although this time on the other side of the island. We got flank shots at all these enemy ships, and pretty much the only credible threat to us is that guy in the New Mexico. And I kind of anticipated that once I got spotted he was going to make an appearance, so I've started turning towards him to take the edge off the... there it is, yeah. Minimal damage, not a problem. Can we shoot him in return? He's reversing back behind the cover of the island. We'll put some shells in his general direction, but I do kind of have to feel a certain amount of sympathy. The kamikaze's firing torpedoes at him as well. Oh, scored a hit. I mean, that poor guy has had a lousy game. Everybody who was with him has died, and he's basically spent the entire game running away from me and the kamikaze who's been chasing him. So he is not going to have a very good game today. At this point, I was actually thinking about chasing that New Mexico down, but it would have been a bad idea to split the team's firepower. Instead, we need to concentrate it. We do have the firepower advantage. There are only 4 enemy ships left, and there's that Fuso again, and I haven't had a particularly good track record against this guy so far. Showing that much of the side of my ship to that enemy Fuso may have looked like a risk, but, well, the friendly Fuso up ahead was doing exactly the same thing, and he was closer, so I guessed that the enemy Fuso was going to fire at him rather than me, and it paid off. Still, it didn't do a huge amount of damage to him in return. And I'm anticipating that the New Mexico that we've chased into the corner of the map is going to be poking out from behind the safety of his little island and taking whatever shots he can at us. And we just capped Charlie, which is nice. We have a massive points lead over the enemy. Yeah, there he is. He's poking out, but at this kind of angle, and I'm going to make it worse for him, I do not anticipate that New Mexico doing any kind of damage to me. Let's see if we can hit the Scharnhorst. The Fuso is closer, but he's presenting a much, much worse target. Although, wait, he is turning around. He must be getting ready to fire his guns. He's got nothing to shoot at as far as I'm concerned. So once again, he's almost certainly going to be going for the... Well, then again, the Fuso up front isn't giving him much better to shoot at. Oh, and I finally actually managed to score a hit that did some damage to that Fuso, although it's nothing spectacular, but it has pushed me up to 98,000 damage done. And yep, as anticipated, they're all shooting the Fuso up ahead of me. This guy, however, while I'm reloading, is turning his nose towards us, which means that... And there's the fire from the New Mexico behind me. Minimal damage. I'm going to have to go for the superstructure shot. Maybe attempt to knock out one of his gun turrets. And none of those even hit him. And then we reached 1,000 points, and that was game over. And right in the dying seconds of the game, I mean literally right as the game ended, I don't know if you saw it, that poor old New Mexico, just to add insult to injury, look at the enemy team list. He's not there, he's dead. He got taken out by our Koenig. That poor guy. Still, his loss was my gain. Or so I thought. You see, I'd been chasing, I mean, it's hard to believe, but I'd spent most of Saturday playing the Fuso, chasing the mission that only involved getting 2 wins. And I thought, finally, done it, 2 wins. Now, where's my reward? And that's when I checked the mission details and realised it was for tier 7 ships. And higher. So, Jingles, you dirty seal clubber. No mission reward for you. And on that bombshell, that's it for today's World of Warships Weekend Warriors game. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.